Hello, Eric Gunderson. I hear you founded something called Development Seed, and here you've been at the FCC Open Developer Day. How's it been going?
Yeah, no, it was today was great. Quickly started off with some overview of like what the FCC was doing, which actually required context because they're working on some weird stuff that you wouldn't actually think the FCC is doing. For example, building APIs out to actually work with census data. And what's interesting about this is they don't have a lot to show right now, but they've started releasing some of their underlying tools, like some of these APIs, even before they've actually released some of the sites that they're using the APIs for. So it was like a really important opportunity to get together, have an informal gathering, and ask questions, being like, so where are you guys going with this? What else are you working on? And there's an informal roadmap lined up that was helpful.
So I saw a whole room of developers in the commission room. This is the place you've got the commissioners come together and talk about serious issues, and instead you've got it full of tables of people coding on things.
Yeah, they put all the tables together into squares so we could do round tables. But yeah, it was kind of funny seeing the big seal and the big podium up there.
So what were people coding away on?
A lot of the conversation I was involved on was actually talking about maps and ways to actually get access to make certain base layers that then the FCC could use to overlay some of their more specific contextual data. For example, they want to make a broadband map. And in mid-February, they're going to launch a map that shows broadband all the way down to the county level. And so there's a conversation about, like, well, what kind of data do people actually want to see to help orient themselves to the map? Like, how, when people come to this new site, what are they actually going to be looking for? Like, how can we make it very quick for them to be able to type in their information and get access to the data? And that's where it really got interesting, because the data here is actually self-reported data by the telcos. But the FCC has also started to crowdsource data where people can run their own line test speeds. So you can actually see what the telcos are saying the line speed should be, what it's advertised at, what it averages at, and then you can also see how this is going to compare with crowdsourced data. So again, a lot of concepting happening, but that was the main focus, and it's timely.
And I saw that one of the foci, if you will, the plural there, was to talk about this new law, the Disability Act that just passed. How does that factor into what the FCC was doing here and what developers were working on?
Honestly, I did not play a large role in that conversation today. But there were a lot of people specifically talking about just ways to get better access to the data. So it was a very diverse crowd.
So to frame this in the larger sense, what does the API posting? What does the FCC posting these APIs mean? What does it mean that they're actually adjusting them? What kind of quality are they? And what's the potential for developers here?
Yeah, right. No, that was a great second question. So, right, you have a site that they're building the API for themselves, which is the number one good thing to do. This isn't like certain folks that used to be building APIs just because Mashable was cool. Like they need this data on their sites. They need a programmatic way to actually get access to it. What they started doing here was, even though they're still working on the site, they've already been able to release an API, like I said, that does a census lookup. So it takes a latitude, longitude, and gives you back a FIPS code, which then you can match with other census data, like demographic data. So it actually acts as a bridge to other agencies' information. Also, they have an API that allows you to look up specific provider information. I guess there's something like 2,000 telcos in the country, and so they actually have information on that down to a geographical area. So what was cool about today was they were talking about why they're building like this. For example, they want people who type in their address to actually be able to see a list of providers that are in their area. Something trivial like that actually requires a smart API. So even though they don't actually have anything live yet, I guess mid-September they started releasing some of their actual APIs on the FCC developer site. And as they continue to work on their products, it causes the API to need improvements. Like, this is natural, right? Any API is going to have to be iterative. So as they're making own adjustments internally, they're doing releases. That's awesome. And seeing these releases and seeing some of their blog posts on that, and then meeting with some of the actual developers today was like a big confidence boost that you actually, there are people here that really get it, and there are people here that are wanting to make the underlying technology better, so this might be a good investment to build on.
So the FCC is dog fooding, to put it in the classic sense. Like
Yeah,
they're consuming
absolutely.
their own information, they're creating the platform for themselves to distribute it internally and externally. What are some of the things that developers could potentially do with this information with these APIs that they haven't yet? Is there an economic opportunity there?
I think there's a major economic opportunity actually within government agencies here. For example, one of their coolest APIs actually has nothing to do with the FCC, right? It's about taking latitude, longitude information and deriving a census figure. That census figure is like the linkage between every other government agency's data sets. So the potential here, I mean, it seems like the FCC is on a pretty aggressive build timeline, and since they need to make some build deliverables, they're opening up their actual tools along the way, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see other agencies pick up those tools, because they're not just being the role model of like, hey, this is a really nice shiny blue site. This is like, hey, there are real tools out here and possibly some other leverage points I think are going to save a lot more money in the future on some of these other gov build sites coming forward. As for what other developers could potentially use from this, there's been a lot of conversation like those housing sites, like Zillow or Redfin. You know how they show like, hey, here's some information about your WASA, and here's some information about your telco. Well, they could actually show your line speed and stuff like that. So there are some very interesting commercial applications for a tool like this that we're talked about today.
Cool. Well, this is Eric Gunderson, founder of Development Seed at developmentseed.org. And for people who want to know more, it's fcc.gov/developer. Thanks, Eric.
Hey, thank you.